And especially young people, do your passion. Follow your passion.
Yes.
And if that's not working out, find another passion. Lots of passions out there to be done.
In the series, we are tapping into the power of storytelling. Join us as we meet some incredible people whom I have had the privilege to meet in this life journey. Some I have known for a lifetime, and some I have just met, but all of them have stories that I know will inspire you as well. So, let's get inspired. I am so excited about today's episode. We have an amazing guest with us today to share her powerful career of serving. A very warm welcome to Amy Ambala. Welcome to Huma Career Insights.
Thank you very much for having me, Baji.
Amy, can you share with us what you do, how you do it, and the why?
Okay. So basically, I'm a special elected member of the Nairobi City County Assembly, which means I'm a politician, a woman politician, and representing the ODM party under the Azimio banner. Not to try and get anybody to be like taking sides, just that's what my space is. Basically, according to the Constitution of Kenya, MCAs under the County Assembly are meant to legislate, oversight, and represent the people, which is our role currently. We do oversighting by getting in touch with the executive. We speak to members of the executive part of the government, which is the chief officers, the ministers. We're allowed to call them in and address any questions that we have or members of the public have raised in terms of what's happening with their resources, what's happening in terms of services to them and that kind of thing. In terms of legislation, we're the ones who create the laws for the county. So we bring up motions in the House, we debate, we discuss, we pass bills and that kind of thing in that regard. And representation, basically just making sure that our people are being taken care of. Also getting the executive to do what our people need to do, what our people need as citizens of Nairobi County, which is quite interesting because Nairobi is also the biggest county. We're 124 members of the County Assembly, which is the largest county assembly in the country. So it's vast. We have a lot of wards and hopefully everyone is aptly represented, I'd like to think.
Thank you, Amy. So might I add, Amy's title therefore is Honorable Amy Ambala. Welcome once again. So Amy, when I was young, I used to get this question, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I want to take you back to your early years. What did you want to be when you grew up, and ultimately, how did you end up in politics?
Okay, if I think about it, originally my plan was I wanted to be a doctor. That's because my dad wanted me to be a doctor. So I come from that old school kind of, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or whatever the case was going to be. So I was planning on being a doctor. And then my father passed away when I was quite young. I was almost 10, which then moved us to live in Zimbabwe with our mother, and the beginning of my Zimbabwean life. When I was in Zimbabwe, did I think that I was going to get into politics? No. In fact, by profession, I'm an accountant. I fell into that job quite by chance. I have a friend who, the late Matabasi Dumbuchena, who got me a training position at Deloitte & Touche. And that's how I ended up becoming an accountant.
Okay.
Having hated maths my entire life. So I don't even know how that happened. Anyway, when I then moved to Kenya, my father was a minister, an assistant minister in the KANU government in the 80s. So already we had that kind of political thing going on in our family. And then also I come from, my maternal side is very, very political. So I just always felt like it's in my blood, to the point where I then decided to study international relations because it's a very politics-based degree. So that was my plan. And actually to just then become actually a diplomat more than anything, you know, not necessarily being active in political life and that kind of thing. So when this opportunity came about and it meant that I could actually make a difference somehow, I don't know in 5 years whether I'll have made the kind of difference I'd like to make. That is my hope. That in 5 years, by the time, well, now we've got 3 left, by the time that we're done, I will have actually made some sort of impact and made a difference in my community.
What I find interesting from your sojourn in Zimbabwe and your coming back into Kenya and still being able to connect to the Kenyan culture to the point where you are actually specially appointed. How did you maintain that language? How did you maintain that connectedness to Kenya while you were living in Zimbabwe?
Oh, that's very simple. My mother has never let us forget that we're Kenyan. We, at home, even though I speak Shona, still trying to learn Ndebele, speak Shona, but my mother has always spoken to us in Luo. And because Swahili is so similar to Shona, it was never a problem, like coming back here. We'd come here maybe every 2 years on holiday. Of course, when my grandfather died, we had to come for that funeral. We try and come at least every 2 years. Of course, from Zimbabwe, I moved to South Africa. So I lived in South Africa for like 13 years. And then I didn't travel that much to Kenya. But in the time with my mom, I've always known my Kenyanness. So even when I talked to her on the phone, even when I was living in South Africa, she's always spoken to me in Luo. So it was never a question of where or how I'm connected to Kenya or whatever the case may be. My father's buried here. The reason I never given up my Kenyan passport is because of my father. So I've always maintained my Kenyan passport, even though I'm a permanent resident of Zimbabwe, but I've maintained my Kenyan passport, and it's very important to me to maintain my surname, even though I'm married. But I still maintain my father's name. So yes, it was not a problem at all for me.
Okay. You mentioned that you are an accountant by profession. So I'm going to circle back a little bit later on to how you fell into the accounting world. But for now, I'd like to know, how do you balance the two? How do you balance your serving in the community as an appointed politician and your accounting?
To be honest with you, I don't actually practice anymore. When I left, I was working for Southern Sun Group. And I left South Africa. And then I came to Kenya, which was very, very difficult, I have to tell you. It took me a good 3 years. I know we're going to discuss this a bit later. But it took me a good 3 years to actually get a job in Kenya. And it got to a point where I was at that point where I will do anything now.
Yeah.
I will literally do anything because I need a job. I am not an entrepreneur. I'm not that kind of person. In business, I can do accounting consulting. But where you're telling me that I don't know where my money is coming from at the end of the month, I'm not that person. I am a worker. I need to get up in the morning and go to work knowing I have this to do between these hours and go home. So it was a real struggle when I first came here, and I had my kids, and my husband is also not Kenyan and that kind of thing. So we really struggled until through connections, I got a job in the county government of Siaya County, which is where I come from, and as a liaison officer. I had no idea. I mean, I did a couple of courses in public relations. I had no idea what I was doing. I just jumped into it and said, you know what, as long as it's a job and it's permanent and pensionable, it's in government, they tell you that at the end, this is your retirement date, but this is your salary and it comes on time. So it was... I think from there is how it's ended up with me actually getting into, I really want to see whether I can get into politics. Aside from a lot of people who were surrounding me, I've had a lot of cheerleaders who would tell me that, don't you think you can be a good politician? And I'd be like, me? I don't know. I don't even know if I can speak in public, so... a lot of self-doubt. But I think that was also as a result of that whole period of not working, where you lose your confidence and you're trying to pick yourself up, and you've moved to a country that you have no idea how things work in. It's your home country, but Kenya, as you know, is completely different from Southern Africa. Southern Africans have a different way of working, which is what I know. So to come here and try and adjust to their type of working was very... So now in this place, because obviously my accounting is Southern African, CA type accounting, whereas here they had this KPA, I think it's KPA.
Okay, yes.
Or CPA or something. So I just didn't pursue it because now I'd gotten into this county government job. I was just like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing now. I'm working for county government. And then so I moved from Siaya County. Now I'm in Nairobi County. Who knows? I could be in Mombasa County next time.
Amy, how do you maintain or how do you develop career flexibility? You came into Kenya, like you said, and you couldn't find a job in accounting, which is what you were professionally qualified for. But you found something else that you could do, that you had the skills to do. How do you do it? How do you maintain that flexibility? Just advice for someone else out there who might find themselves in the same situation and remain stuck on the fact that, hey, I'm a protection specialist and that is what I'm looking for.
I think for me, well, it's actually never been asked to me that way. But then for me, if you ask me honestly, I would think that first and foremost, because of us moving to Zimbabwe and having to adjust at such a young age to a new country, new schools, new accents, changing all that. And then when I then got this, my first job was more as trying to prove a point to my mother. It was not really something I wanted to do. I just went and said, I'm getting a job. And I went and I became a receptionist. And then I was like, this is not working. And that's when my friend introduced me to Deloitte & Touche. And from Deloitte & Touche, I was poached by an international company to become their regional accountant.
Yes.
And I moved the company to South Africa because it was a journalist company, and Zim was becoming so difficult with journalists. So again, I had to adjust to moving to a new country with a 2-year-old child. My husband couldn't get a permit. So I'm there and I'm doing this regional accounting, and it was a job that entailed a lot of traveling, and my ability to move through people, I think, helps me. I like meeting new people.
Yeah.
I like trying new cultures. I don't believe that anything is forever. There's nothing that stays stagnant. You keep it moving.
Yeah.
You need to keep life moving. You can't just say, that's it. This is the end. I have these discussions with my husband because sometimes he'll be like, I'm so fed up. I just don't know. And I look at him and I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Let's try this now. If this is not working, we're trying this now. Okay, then let's try this now until something is going to work, because something is going to work. Nothing is going to stay, nothing remains constant. So then even when I left that job and of this journalist company, when I moved to Southern Sun, I became an IT financial administrator. I had no idea about anything to do with computers.
Yeah.
I knew how a computer worked. But to buy stock for hotels and make sure that they're being installed in different hotels and people are bringing you orders, I was like, what the hell is this? What have I gotten myself into? So I can constantly adapt.
Yeah.
I think that it's important for people to maintain that ability in their lives, that they can change from one thing to another at any time. And also my mother has that ability. My mother can move and change jobs like water.
Yeah.
And she'll always tell you, you'll say to her that, I'm just feeling I'm in my 40s now. And she'll be like, you're nothing but a child. What are you saying? There's so much to do. You've still got so much time. How can you be talking like that? In fact, we're supposed to be going on a trip. I travel with her a lot. We're supposed to be going on a trip. We're leaving in 2 days. We've got no time to be down, It's just that mindset. I think if you keep that mindset of there's always a way, I think that's it for me.
Yeah.
something will always give. And even if I don't make, I'm ready now. If I don't make it back in in 2027, my plan is to become a diplomat. If I don't make that, I'll probably go into PR. I don't know. But I'm not going to say that, that's going to be it. If I'm no longer a member of a county assembly, then where's my life going to go? I have to just keep it moving. Also, I'm not a person who sits still. I think that helps. I don't like being bored. So, yeah, that's a good thing.
Okay, so I had parked the question about networking, contact, referrals. Another word that's being used in my conversations is social capital, all meaning the same thing. How important has that been in your whole professional journey? And what is your advice to people in terms of like maintaining or developing that network or social capital?
Oh, that is a constant learning thing, I think, for everybody. I don't know. My first jobs I was able to get quite easily. Maybe because I was younger. But my first jobs I was able to get quite easily. Here in Kenya, which is like completely, as I said, completely different ballgame professionally, it is about contacts. And but as I said, I'm a PR person.
Yeah.
So I meet people and immediately I'm wanting to find out more about you. When can we meet? In fact, the fact that you're telling me that you do this, there's something that I want to do with you. When can I call you? When can we have a meeting and discuss this? I can make conversation really quickly. And that I think is so important in terms of, in terms of giving people if you close yourself, there's no way that people will know that there's a way that I can help this person or there's something we can actually do together that could make a change somewhere. One of my biggest things, and now because I don't care about talking about it all the time because it's so important to me, is mental health. And you find that mental health, even in terms of things like that, when somebody closes themselves off and you're wondering, why are you closing yourself off? Because a problem shared is a problem halved. Yeah. So if you now tell me that, Amy, I didn't even know that you work for the county assembly. I've been trying to get this and this and this. Until we start engaging, or you try and make an effort to engage with me, you will not know.
Yes.
You will just see, there's this person on the group called Amy.
Yes.
And that's it. There's nobody, but you see me post things about politics and things like that, and you'll be like, but this chick talks about politics a lot.
I wonder why.
Why? I think it's just, for me, it's a matter of just being able to use the contacts I have. I've been very lucky, I must say, that I know quite a few influential people, luckily. Not to say that everyone does, but equally, I don't think that there's a contact that is not important.
Yes, 100%.
Yes, everyone somehow has some. And I don't believe that you meet people for no reason. There's a reason why someone comes into your life. It will reveal itself. Even if it is just that day that, you've lost a family member and the ones who came to that funeral and stood at that mass and stood there with you and held your hand, there will be a reason. They'll reveal themselves. So I don't think that any connection that you make in life is small or for nothing. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. I am really impressed by this networking, social capital, because every single one of my guests has mentioned it. Like I say, they've used a different word, whether it's referral, whether it's contact, whether it's social capital, but it has meant the same thing and it has always propelled them, either from one level to the other or gotten them or opened the door for them.
Absolutely.
So I really want to highlight this to our listeners, that network that you have is very important to maintain, to develop, to grow, to give into. And I'm reminded of a book I read, The Spiderweb Effect, I think it was. And it was about how a certain cultural group has made it so big in this world, financially, influentially, everything, all through simple referral and connection. You want a doctor, they refer them to someone in their network.
Yes.
You want an accountant, they refer to someone in their network. So I really want to stress the impact that this has on your career, professional development, on really anything that you're working on. Let's focus on our networking.
And this, as the saying goes, Bache, there's your net worth is your network. So, they say the people you surround yourself with, that network that you have, is part of what your worth is as a person. So you also need to just, go to the right places.
Yes.
Attend the correct events. Engage the right people, and even the way you speak to people is so important. It can be the make or break for your career, any relationship actually. It's just how you approach people, how you engage with people. I think it's very important that people remember that. And just people should remember that, because that can be your make or break. Things can change overnight just because of that.
Yeah. But what are some tips that you can share with our listeners regarding moving and living in different countries within Africa?
First and foremost, always learn at least the basics. I'm lucky that I'm a polyglot. I can pick up languages really easily. So I always learn the basics of any country I go to.
Yeah.
At least. I always learn the food, because it's very important for me to eat African food. And I make an effort of going to their restaurants, whether I'm here, if I find one, or I travel to that country. I spend my time eating their food. Because we're African, always know about people's cultures in terms of respect and how they treat each other, women-wise. And I don't even know if this is even just an African thing, because Indians are very like that as well. Indians are very patriarchal. And even the way the women are not, it's like being with African women.
Yes.
And how they're seen, not heard, and that kind of thing. Yeah. Because I had just been in India and I was watching it and I was fascinated. Male doctors don't see you. A male doctor cannot.
Oh.
Yeah, see you. You will always be seen by a female doctor because you're a woman. What are you doing with a man? So I think that culture thing, I think, is pretty much everywhere. So important. But I think because we're Africans, it's easier for us to also adjust to people's cultures. Right. Always know tax laws and VAT registrations, all that kind of stuff. Make sure your permits are up to date. If possible, secure yourself a good immigration lawyer who just renews whenever you need that done. So I think that is off the top of my head. Moving and working, in a different country, those are the things I would automatically think of. And always get a place where it's safe. Doesn't matter how much it costs. Okay, within reason, but then safety first. Always.
Yeah. In this world that we live in, where there's a lot of upheavals,
exactly,
I think that's also something that is prime in terms of like a checklist.
Yes.
Where do I live?
Yes, where do I live? Yeah. Find out the good areas. It would be a good idea for people to even just go on a 1 week visit to that place, and just say, let me just check this place out, speak to people, find out schools if you've got young kids. I'm almost done, so I'm very grateful.
Amy, moving on. 2 things. You talked about mental health. A powerful conversation going on mental health, which was long overdue. How do you manage stress? And how do you advise others out there to manage stress and to protect their mental health?
I have been doing a lot of reading because I realized when this thing started for me, it's actually emotion that I brought to the floor of the house to compel the county government to have regular mental health checks for the staff. It's not easy to work for county government. And some people are like, yeah, but you can't, some of my colleagues are, but Amy, you can't tell people that, they must have. And I said, no. This is actually a health thing. Because there was a whole thing going on about people killing themselves all over the city. And I was like, but why are we not having, maybe somebody needs to talk I used to work in Delta Towers. They're having lunch one day. Somebody just jumped from the 17th floor at lunchtime.
Oh, wow.
So, things like that. So I said, for me, my management of my mental health, to be honest, is the fact that I have a great husband. I won't lie.
Okay.
I really have a supportive husband who generally takes over our house. So even when I get home, I'm able to just relax and can sit on the balcony and we can have a chat and have a drink and, talk about the day or whatever it is that he wants to discuss. I also have a very strong relationship with my mom. So anything that I feel I need to talk about, I've got her. And I've got 3 very, very good friends. That is my circle. Without the support of those people that I'm able to be myself with, I don't know. Because they all know me pretty well. And they, like my husband, for instance, when I'm going like a bit far left, he will be like, come back here. Because I can go crazy. So I'm just like, I think, yeah, it's my family. My family and those 3 friends, I think is what it is. I'm reading more as well now in terms of, because I went through this whole thing where I was thinking, people are annoying me. But learning about boundaries and creating those boundaries so that I don't allow toxicity into my space or starting to stand up for myself, which I'm telling you, it's never too late to learn things like that. Because I always thought that, I'm just being a nice person. And I found out, don't have to be a nice person. You just have to be a good person. So I'm a good person. And that, I think, is what is helping me now. And I'm hoping to do a lot of work with this mental health thing, help a lot of people, especially young people.
Yes.
Because even my daughter in her 20s has got her issues, and I'm finding out that there's actually things you want to talk about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a big thing for me.
Yeah. One thing that really jumps out at me is that accountability circle that you mentioned, your tribe. And that is the one thing that I totally encourage and highlight during my coaching programs when I'm working with someone. I always say, get that accountability circle, your tribe, your people that will support you around the goals that you have set for yourself.
Exactly.
Around the purpose or whatever it is that you are working towards. You need that group of people. Even in a job search, you need your accountability circle. So that is a critical aspect of that professional development, career goals, life in general.
Yes, and also learning to take positive criticism. Not criticism is wrong.
Yes.
That's, when somebody is saying, it's not necessarily that they're trying to put you down or something. It's just to make you a better person. Let me make you more accountable. Don't run away from it and act like you had no role to play in this.
Exactly. Yes.
Take responsibility for it. Be accountable and see how to move from that.
Yeah.
Because everything is a learning curve.
Yes, yes. The feedback.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good feedback.
Yeah.
And then one last point drawn from our conversation is that issue of imposter syndrome. That, you mentioned a couple of things about how initially when people came to you and said, you could run for this. You could be especially elected, and you're like, who? Me? But people had noticed that skill in you, that ability in you. But for yourself, that imposter syndrome was like, no, that cannot be
Not
me.
me.
Yeah,
No.
that cannot be me.
Nope.
Yeah, that is something that we as individuals have to fight, whether it is in our careers, whether it is in our in our community. Work on fighting that imposter syndrome. Last thing, Amy, thank you so much for your time. For a busy woman like you, we are grateful. And I hope the listeners have been inspired as I have been by you. Any final thoughts, words, messages to our listeners?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. This has been fun. I think, what I've learned Now, don't let me sound like an old fuddy-duddy. What I've learned now in life, I don't believe that anybody is here for no reason. I really believe wherever you find yourself, these are the things I tell my daughter, that even if you're starting, and I even said this to my stepson, and I said, don't always think that you need to get out of school and the first thing you're doing is you're jumping into a job that is going to pay you 30,000 rand. It doesn't work. Life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Okay. When I left and when I started at Deloitte, my salary was 1,200 Zim dollars. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen so much money in my life. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so excited. But then of course you progress and you
Yes.
get things, everything happens when it's supposed to happen. You take on whatever challenges that are going to come your way, you take them on. Yes, sometimes you'll stumble, sometimes you feel you can't do it, sometimes it does. But I swear, every day I wake up and I'll be like, it's another day. Today will be better. When I didn't work and I would think to myself, how am I even going to feed my children? Look at me. Somehow I'm still here. I don't think that it should ever be that serious. Where I know I don't want to judge people who've taken their own lives, but it's never that serious. It's just one day at a time. Somehow, something is going to happen. So yeah. And especially young people, do your passion. Follow your passion.
Yes.
And if that's not working out, find another passion. Lots of passions out there to be done.
Yes.
Coming from an accountant, PR liaison, and now MCA person. So there's lots of passions out there.
Honorable Amy Ambala, thank you. A lot of nuggets that we have taken out of this conversation. And to our listeners, I hope you have been inspired today. And until next time, stay inspired.